Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Today we are beginning our new unit. The name of the unit is What Does My Clock Say? In this unit there are two stories, and today we are going to go over story 1. The name of the story is Reminiscing. Now first read the question, and while I am reading, keep the question in mind and then try to answer this question once I have completed the reading of this particular paragraph. What did the writer's parents give him when he turned 12 years old? Okay, now I'm reading. When I was 12, my parents bought a farm in which I raised my own herd of cows. Herd of cows? Group of cows. I had 5 black heifers who were always hungry. I loved those heifers. I had a name for each one of them. My father gave me one side of the barn just for them, and I kept their stalls full of straw, so fresh and golden that they could be spun into gold. When the sun slanted in through the high wooden door, the dust moths drifted down like small gold coins against the backs of my cows. In the evening, I fed my cows nice big helpings of sweet ground corn and a bale of hay. They would always come running up with their enormous bellies swaying about their slender legs. They had soft, sympathetic eyes, and as I told my tales at school and family, they would rub their heads against my shoulder. So when the author became 12, what was he given? He was given 5 black heifers, right? And what were the characteristics of these heifers? They were always hungry, and in the last 3 or 4 lines we have more details that they had enormous bellies, and they had slender legs, and they had kind eyes. So they had enormous bellies, which shows that they were healthy, they were fat, and they had thin legs and very kind eyes. And when the author talked to them, what did they do? They rubbed their heads against his shoulder, which shows that they loved him, right? So this is an indication that the animal loves the owner. Now in this paragraph there are 2 time expressions. The first line begins with when I was 12, and then in the 5th line, yes, in the 5th line, in the evening. This also is a time expression. Then in the 5th line we have like small gold coins. This is a simile. Whenever we use like or as to compare things, that is a simile. So like small gold coins means that it is a simile. The author is comparing the drifting of the moths with small gold coins. And drifted means fall or move. Okay? Let's go over to the next question. How many cows did he have? So how many cows did he have? He had 5 black heifers. And write their characteristics. So the characteristics that we already discussed. They were 5, they were black, they were always hungry, they had enormous bellies, they had thin legs and kind, sympathetic eyes. Let's move on to the next paragraph. You can pause the video here and quietly read the paragraph and then listen to how I read. That summer it was as hot as an oven. Again we have a simile over here, as hot as an oven. That summer it was as hot as an oven, and the sun coiled red above us every day, relentless in its burning. The farm unraveled around our weathered house, rows and rows of plowed and planted land turning to dust. So what was happening? That because of the summer heat, which was relentless in its burning, which was non-stopping, unceasing, and everything was burning and turning to dust. So their rows of plowed fields as well as planted fields were turning to dust. They were withering. The leaves withered, shriveled, and turned brown. So the leaves of those planted plants, they were not fresh and green. They were withered, shriveled, and they were turning brown. The grass around the house was as dry as straw. So the grass was yellow, looking just like straw. And the water in the well went low. And the water in the well was also drying, and that's why it was low. The water we drew had a stink and an unpleasant taste. So the water was stinky and the taste was also not pleasant. But I was not unhappy. Now the author is reminiscing about his past. In spite of having these problems and difficulties and heat, the author remembers that he was not unhappy. There was no one living near us for miles except a small family, which helped my parents on the farm. They had 2 children who helped milk the cows every morning before Salatul Fajr. In the early heat of the morning, sweat dripping down our foreheads and necks, we would stand under the trees and take long sips of the cold, thick, creamy milk before carrying it to the farmhouse for breakfast. Then we would ride our horses far into the fields with the wind whipping against our faces and bringing us endless laughter and joy. Right? So the author is remembering that how much fun he had in spite of the heat. Now see that this person, when he was 12 years old, he would wake up early in the morning and he starts his day before Salatul Fajr. Right? So before Salatul Fajr, he used to milk the cows, and then he and the other 2 boys, they would drink milk and look at the adjectives being used for milk: cold, thick, creamy milk. 3 adjectives have been used in a row. So they would stand over there and under the shade of the tree and drink milk. After that, they would ride their horses, and that was the most enjoyable thing in their life. They used to have endless laughter and joy, never-ending laughter and joy. So they were full of joy in spite of the heat and the summer and the relentless burning of the sun. Still, they were happy. And then they would go and have their breakfast. Okay, now can you tell me that what weather was it? Yes, it was summer. And what was the effect of the summer heat? What was happening as a result of the summer heat? What did they do before breakfast? Okay, so list some effects of hot weather. So what were the effects? Everything was turning to dust. Leaves withered, shriveled, and turned brown. Grass, which was around their house, it had become as dry as straw. As dry as straw, again a simile. And the water in the well went low, and because it had went low, it had a stinky smell and an unpleasant taste. So this was the effect of the heat. Now what did they do before breakfast? Yes, they milked the cows and they rode their horses. Okay, now let's come to the last part. We would return home for breakfast with rosy cheeks and flushed eyes. Why did they have rosy cheeks and flushed eyes? What happened? Why did they become red in their faces? Yes, because they had enjoyed riding their horses in the heat of the sun, and that's why their cheeks become red. And you all also have rosy cheeks and flushed eyes after your PT period, isn't it? Breakfast was a simple affair and would consist of hot parathas and a tall glass of fresh cold whey. What is whey? Lassi. Yes, so their breakfast was parathas and a glass of lassi. I would return to the stables and clean my horses, rubbing my hands up and down their taut, strong bodies and silky tails, adjusting the leather saddles and polishing the soft whips. Now look at the adjectives being used over here. Now after the breakfast he's going back to the stable, so the house of the horses is called a stable. And then he would rub his hands on the tight and strong body of the horse and his silky tail. So taut, strong bodies. Two adjectives, and there is a comma between them because both of these are opinions. And what type of tails? Silky tails. And what type of saddles? Leather saddles. And saddle is the seat on which a rider sits. And what type of whips? Soft whips. Right? The horses would neigh gently in my ear as I fed them with handfuls of black chickpeas and lumps of brown sugar. Right? So this is their food. So what would he feed them? This was a treat for them. And he would feed them with black chickpeas and lumps of brown sugar. And if he did not have the treat for them, then what did they do? They would stomp their feet and blow their nostrils in impatience if I arrived without a treat. So they became a little impatient and a little upset when he did not bring a treat for them. When I was 12, my parents bought a farm, and I was the happiest being. It was not about how much you had, but what you did with the little you had. When I was 12, time went by slowly. We enjoyed each day with our family and friends, with simple things that made us thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His bounty. When I was 12, the world was honest and simple. When I was 12, time was abundant. Now, I have already taught you 3 poetic devices, and over here, the author has used one more device, which is repeating the one phrase again and again. When I was 12. Over here, you can see that 4 sentences in the last paragraph are beginning with when I was 12. When I was 12, my parents bought a farm and I was the happiest being. Then, when I was 12, time went by slowly. Then, the last 2 sentences, when I was 12, the world was honest and simple. When I was 12, time was abundant. Right? So, in this last part, the author is trying to tell us that if you use your time judiciously, if you wake up early and use your time wisely, you can do a lot more than many other people. And he used to do that when he was 12. Probably now he has become busy with something, or he has moved to a city and the life has changed, and probably he feels that now he is not using his time judiciously. Using the time intelligently, wisely is extremely important, and you can accomplish a lot in your life if you spend your time wisely. So this is the message in the last paragraph, beginning from when I was 12, that whatever you have, you should be satisfied and happy with it. This line over here tells us this. It was not about how much you had, but what you did with the little you had. So at that time, he was not rich. He had a weathered house and his life was simple. He was living in a village, but still he was happy and satisfied, and he was using everything wisely. So the thing is that whatever bounties Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, be thankful for it and use your time wisely to make the most of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Now, a question. Okay. Now, what did he do before breakfast and after breakfast? You have to make 2 columns and write what did he do before breakfast and what did he do after breakfast. Pause the video and do it. Okay, what did the author do before and after breakfast? So before breakfast, he used to milk the cows before Salatul Fajr, and then he drank milk in the shade of the trees, and then he took the milk to the farmhouse, to his home, and he with his friends rode horses. And then after the breakfast, he would go back to the stables and clean his horses and give them black chickpeas and lumps of sugar. Right? So this is what he did after the breakfast. A few more questions. What did he eat for breakfast? Yes, parathas and whey. Why did their faces flush? Because they rode the horses in heat. Excellent. Why did the animals rub their faces on his shoulders? Because they liked him, yes. What is he trying to tell us about time? Now, this is the question I would want you to write in your notebooks. You can make a web first, organize your thoughts, and then write a short paragraph telling us what is the message or what is the thing that he's trying to tell us from this story, Reminiscing. Jazakallah. See you next time.